Thank you, Abraham. And I just recently experienced a potent feeling of death when my little dog died, who was with me for basically half of my life. And I knew in my head space that death is not what everyone says it is, but I really, really felt it when I was with my dog in her last dying moments, and I was feeling her breath in and out, and I felt like this incredible light and love, and I had to stop myself because the place was so beautiful. I actually wanted to go with her, and it was at that moment that I realized that love and death are exactly the same thing.
Perfect. And what you felt your dog experience was this.
Yeah.
In other words, in one fell swoop, releasing all doubt and fear and worry and anything that was picked up along the physical trail as he's banging around with humans. In other words, all resistance was released, and a full exhilarating exposure to the knowledge of well-being. Yes, indeed. What brings you here?
I'm a teacher, and I've talked to you before in Syracuse about teaching, and I wanted some more clarification. I'm at the point now where I want to be in the Sudbury Valley School in my life. But I think there's still a part of me that is not quite ready. So it's like you say, like you have to start with a little bridge and then a little bridge.
What is it about that appeals to you?
It is the no agenda. It's the no curriculum. It's the...
You're wanting to be a facilitator there, a teacher there?
Mm-hmm.
And what is it that appeals to you about being in that position?
Play. Just being free to just do what your heart leads you to do and just do anything. And actually, I have a more specific question.
Well, the reason that we're wanting to help you pinpoint here just a little bit is because what happens in that environment is that the students are allowed the free rein to conclude their own desires. And when a desire formulates within them, then the faculty, the staff, the teachers do whatever they can in the accommodating of the unfolding of that desire. So the reason that we can feel that that is appealing to you as a teacher is because it puts teaching, finally, once and for all, in the place where it always must be, as a facilitator to the fulfillment of the natural desire, because that's the only kind of teaching that fits in with law of attraction. Every other kind of teaching is about assertion, and there is no assertion in this or any universe that ever works, you see. So the reason that this appeals to you so much is because you've come forth as an uplifter. You want to be a catalyst to assist others in knowing that all is well. And certainly you want to help them along their ways relative to some specific academic endeavors. But the reason that this appeals to you so much is because you can feel the power of finally getting in your canoe and focusing it with the stream instead of against the stream where most other teachers are focused. Yes.
And I have a specific question, because I visited a school that I thought was kind of what I wanted, but when I got back I realized, no, this is not what I wanted, and I realized I had been subjected to basically an hour-and-a-half lecture of why this was the best type of education. And from that place I just thought, oh my goodness, this is not what I want.
And out of it came what? Clarity?
And I came home, and I want to ask your opinion on this kind of thing.
You don't need our opinion.
Okay.
You got it clearly. In other words, you know exactly. And anyone else's opinion, even if it is a good one like ours, is... In other words, you don't need anyone's opinion. You can feel when things line up within you. It wasn't a match. But it was a clarifying experience that helped you to amplify more clearly what it is that you do want, you see.
And I sort of came home with this idea that I wasn't going to assert myself in any way on my students. So my plan was, on the first day, I was going to give them a choice to say, look, you can either choose the standard traditional model, and I can be that for you, or if you want, you can choose me to be just hanging by the side. Basically, you almost don't have to come to class. Once in a while, I have to do a few interviews with you to make sure everything's all right with you and you're on the path that you want to go, and have little interviews. But then I was faced with, I'm in a traditional system where and maybe...
Well, here's the thing we would do. We would not do that openly, because it would bring all kinds of resistance to you. But we would play it out in the framework of our mind. In other words, we would lie in bed and we would rehearse that. And as you get to know your new classroom, we would see them individually in mind's eye, and we would watch for opportunities to imbue them with that knowing and watch what happens. When you are in any classroom, many times the students are not there because they want to be. They're there because they have no other choice. But what you are coming to know about learning is that unless they are wanting to know something, you're giving them of the information is sort of a waste of everybody's time anyway. So what you're wanting to do is to find a way to sort of stimulate their wanting. Now, if you were at the Sudbury Valley School, they would not encourage you to do that. In other words, they don't want you to goose up the wanting in those kids. They want those kids to find their own natural wanting. And there is true value in that. In other words, because when they find their own natural wanting, it unfolds beautifully. Otherwise, you're sort of in on all of it. And so here you are in a situation where many of the children are not wanting to be there anyway, and you have all kinds of things that the administration is wanting from you, and you feel sort of fitful and frustrated about being in an environment that's really not the perfect vibrational match to what you want. But even in an environment where there are all of those elements that are not yet right now lining up to please you in the way that you want, still, out of each one of those experiences, clarity of desire will come forth. In other words, take it as it comes. Take one day at a time. Take one interchange with one student at a time. Let it naturally evolve from you. There are hundreds of thousands of schools like Sudbury that are in the future experience. You are experiencing an educational upheaval. Children are coming forth. Even parents are coming to recognize that the school system as it now exists is not working for anyone. In other words, it is mediocre even in its best situations. And so what's happening is you are all part of that. And the day-to-day experiences that will be born in your classroom will send up rockets that then when those knowing ones like you get off to yourself and visualize around it, you open vortexes that open doorways for endless schools that are to come. So this is part of the process that is putting them into place in the future. And how much better would be 100,000 of those kinds of schools in your nation than 20 or 30 or 40 or even one more that you might be a part of? You get what we are talking about?
Yeah.
And this comes back round to speaking of the power of the contrast that you knew would be here when you made the decision to come forth. You didn't say, I'll go forth and I want to be a teacher and get all school systems set up just the way I want so that when I get there I can offer in the way that I want. You said, I know there will be variety, and out of the variety there will be things I like and things that I don't like, and new desires will be born within me, and once the new desire is born I will ride that rocket and I will line my energy up with it, and I will have a glorious time in the unfolding of it. You are the creator of these kinds of schools, not just the happy benefactor of someone else's creation of such a school. And we promise you, you will have...
You have 4 minutes for that wind-up.
We are being reminded. We promise you that you will have so much more exhilaration in the process of aligning to that energy than you ever would if you walked right into a classroom where the perfect environment were already created for you.